This is Eytan Weinstein.
And I'm Naor Menninger, and you're listening to Two Nice Jewish Boys.
This podcast is sponsored by The Forward. Stay up to date with unlimited access to news, culture, and opinion, all through a Jewish lens. And for our listeners, for 2NJB listeners, get 6 months of The Forward for $15. An exclusive subscription offer for our listeners, forward.com/2NJB, and get 6 months for $15. Also in collaboration with Arutz Sheva, IsraelNationalNews.com. And last but not least, in collaboration with Australian Jewish News, check them out at ajn.timesofisrael.com. In a bit less than 3 weeks, on March 23rd, I, Eytan Weinstein, will turn 32. Oh, yeah. And Israel will hold its 4th round of elections in the past 2 years. If you don't live here and follow the news obsessively, you might find yourself a little baffled as to the amount of parties, agendas, boycotts, and potential prime ministers in our tiny political pool. Don't you worry, though, because today we've got you covered. Who's we, you ask? Well, to try and make sense of the chaotic Israeli political map, we are joined today by Yoav Rabinowitz. One of our favorite past guests. By day, he's the chief editor of the super influential TV show The Other Side with Guy Zohar, which deconstructs news items and political speeches and confronts them with the cold hard facts. By night, Yoav takes off his suit and becomes a stand-up comedian and the wittiest tweeter in the Middle East. Tonight, we have one goal for the show. We're going to walk you through all the main political parties on the ballot and some not-so-main ones and try to find one that doesn't make us want to vomit.
Oh, that's our...
That's hard.
What we're trying to do.
By the way, what we forgot to say is that if you're listening to this podcast, then you probably are interested in Israel. We have a sponsorship.
Okay.
From Masa Israel Journey.
Wow, Masa.
Yes. This, I'm putting on my
Masa.
salesman mask. But seriously, Masa Israel Journey is an amazing program. I was on Masa programs. Part of the reason I'm here, causing such stress and anxiety to Naor. So check out masaisrael.org/2nicejewishboys, TWO Nice Jewish Boys. And that way you let them know we sent you, you support the podcast. Basically, Masa Israel gives you the opportunity to do internships and work in Israel. You can do it remotely. You can do it from the States. You don't actually have to come here. You don't have to know Hebrew. But if you apply, you get funding. So check them out, masaisrael.org/2nicejewishboys.
Yoav.
One question. With all those titles you gave me, none of them is a political correspondent.
Exactly.
So
we wouldn't want a political correspondent.
Okay.
It's your hobby.
Okay.
When we need a plumber, we call a software engineer.
I'm a concerned citizen. That's what I am.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
I think you gave us the last disclaimer last time. The same disclaimer last time.
Maybe something about maybe so.
And a Bibi voter in the closet, probably.
No, I'm a pro-Bibi, anti-Bibi.
You're pro-anti-Bibi.
I'm a pro-Bibi, which doesn't like Bibi. That's what I am. I don't like Bibi, and I won't vote for him, but I'm...
You are for, against, not hating him.
Something like that.
Okay.
I think I'm for the anarchists who are for him. I'm for their beliefs in everything but him. The system is corrupt, but it's horrible.
Did you get vaccinated?
Yes, of course, twice. Yes, thank you, Bibi. Thank you.
There we
Bibi.
go.
Thank you, Bibi, for all those phone calls. Which, by the way, I have to say, thank you, Bibi. You made a lot of phone calls. I actually think that he made more phone calls than other leaders, so thank you.
Phone calls to whom? You need to explain the joke.
To
Burla. The phone calls.
He made the phone calls to the CEO of Pfizer. He always says, I made a lot of phone calls to
30.
him. I think he said 17.
Okay.
Maybe after 13 phone calls, it came to 30. But yes, those were important.
It is amazing, though.
I hate being on the phone. I really hate making phone
And
calls.
he did that for us.
At
you
least
see?
he didn't
Yeah.
send WhatsApp voice messages to Burla. That would be
That's
like,
the worst. That's the worst.
I'm so horrible at WhatsApp voice messages. It's, millennials do it actually.
Yeah.
And I think we're too old for it. So a
Shit.
friend sent me a voice message, and I sent him, and I said bye at the end of the voice message. And I understand you don't do that. You don't do, okay, I got you, bye.
Have a
Just
wonderful
saying.
day.
But then the conversation never ends,
Yeah.
and you're in a loop.
Yeah.
That's it.
I send voice messages on WhatsApp.
Okay, guys, we have a task at hand.
Okay, not to vomit.
Should we? I thought we should start from the smallest party and then move to the biggest one according to the polls. What do
Okay.
you think?
Okay,
about
but
this?
maybe we need to give a big picture to our listeners. I'm not sure how many of them do they understand that we are a parliamentary democracy.
Not really. Not
I
really.
think so, but
So-so.
let's give them a quick rundown. You want to do it?
So basically, the difference between Israel and the United States, but the similarity between other democracies, is that we're a parliamentary democracy and not a presidential one. That means everyone votes for a party, but for a party, not for a contestant nominee, a party. And those parties need to form a coalition which will be the majority of the parliament. We have 120 seats, and they need 61 votes, so they could form a government with their coalition. And the backstory, when we go to the ideology, is, of course, what is the differences between the parties? We had an axis of right and left. We always had it, but the issues between the right and the left were different. And that's already my interpretation of what's happening, is that those differences, this right to left axis, when the right was for basically the biggest ideological difference in the last decades was the question of the settlements and the Palestinian conflict. Today, that axis is a bit different, and it starts to deconstruct on social issues, on ideological issues, but also mainly on the personal issue of Benjamin Netanyahu. And the parties will represent, if they used to represent only an ideological idea, now there is a big question to where they sit on the political map regarding that construction.
That one question.
Yes.
Which I have to say is it's funny because they used to kind of just cover it up, but I was watching Channel 13 News the other day, and they split up the factions as they just put it out there. They're like the Bibi faction and the against Bibi faction.
What, the media?
The media.
I don't. The media used to show right and left. But you say they
I'm
didn't
saying
call it
today
right.
they're not even trying to cut. They're just saying Bibi has this and the not BBs have this.
But
That's how they called them.
But that's because of that deconstruction. Because
Yeah.
we used to have the right on Bibi's side. We used to have one leader for every side, and they would go head to head. Even in our parliamentary system, when you voted for a small party, you more or less knew who she's gonna recommend, which head of the big party. And if you didn't, that was a big question. But now the right, you have parties on the right which won't go with Bibi. And then the construction of those parties are based on that question.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's happening in the States as well, right? You had, the last election, you had the Trumpers and the not Trumpers. I mean,
Yes,
no one
but-
really cared about Joe Biden.
But that's a different system there. It
No,
doesn't
yeah,
matter.
Yeah,
if
but I'm
they're
saying
for,
I'm saying that the ideology of personality, right? That
yes, but even the Trumpers and non-Trumpers, they were Republican or non-Republican. You're talking about what fraction of the party they were, but they were Republican.
Yeah, but there's this. What I'm saying is there's this movement that, like, there's this trend that I don't think is so good for democracy, where the big question at the end of the day now, when we approach elections, both in the United States, here as well, is do we like this guy or do we not like this guy?
Yeah, because they say that politics is becoming more personal. I'm not sure because I wasn't here for a long time. But
But it gets even more complicated because in the right, there are right wingers who are only Bibi and right wingers who are not Bibi, and then you have leftists, all the leftists.
You know, I want to ask you a question. Before we tell our listeners who are the parties, who is the right? You talk about parties which are right and pro-Bibi and parties which are right and anti-Bibi.
Yeah.
Which party do you have which is right, which is pro-Bibi? You have only the...
You mean
Well,
no? They're not pro-Bibi, but they'll
you
say-
have
they're neutral.
Smotrich.
So you have Smotrich,
But that's
and
almost
you have
that.
the Haredi parties.
And the question is whether they are right or not.
I think they are. They are because if you know the Haredi people, they love Bibi.
Yeah, but they're
Exactly.
very socialist.
Exactly.
Yeah, they're
they
socialist,
love
but-
Bibi. You say they are right, like right on the right side of the parliament, but that's only because they're after Bibi today.
But if we can agree that Bibi is right, we can discuss on that maybe. But assuming Bibi is right, then if you love Bibi, you are right. No?
Maybe the reason they love him is because he helps them. Maybe. Today I think that the voters of Shas, and we'll talk about I'm sorry that we deep down already, but I think that the voters of Shas, which is the Sephardic Haredi Jews, they are right-wingers. Really,
Yes.
the voters, sometimes they're not Haredi, they're just right.
Yeah.
But the Ashkenazi Jews?
Okay,
The
so you have
right-wingers
Shas.
on certain issues, though. That's what in Israel. It's also not so clear. Like there is like the whole national security question.
Yeah.
There's very clear lines, but I mean
On the Haredi
sometimes
Jews, they don't care.
yeah.
And they're even anti-Zionists, some of them, or not pro-Zionists.
Yeah, but still, so to answer your question, you have Smotrich, but it's not fair to ask because the Likud is such a huge party, right? So
But that's the party today. They are built around Netanyahu.
Yeah.
But we also have to say, first of all, the reason I'm not saying that politics it's a new thing, that it's after personalities, is because I studied a bit of political science at university. I don't think
that's why we brought you.
Yeah, exactly. It's not something to brag about.
Yoav
but-
Rabinowitz, our political
Yeah.
correspondent for Two Nice Jewish
But
Boys.
in the first semester, they taught us, and it was 9 years ago, that politics is becoming more personal, and they said it as a fact. So the politics is becoming more personal, but I don't think it's the thing. It's the last decade like that. It's already
No, I think
With
there's
Begin,
waves.
it was,
I think there's waves, but
Yeah,
there's waves where there's times where you have like people, like you said, a person against a person, and then you have like
Yeah.
kind of a battle of the ideologies or the thinking,
Yeah.
and less a battle of personalities.
Okay.
But
So
okay, let's start.
Let's
Yeah.
start.
Okay,
Yeah, so
sorry.
So
Yes.
the smallest party that we go with the polls, okay?
Okay.
So the smallest party that is polling right now is the Kalkalit.
Wait.
Right?
When you say the smallest, which is polling, it's because they have 1% and above, right?
Yeah.
Not because they will probably enter the parliament.
Yeah, they are polling several parties, and those are the parties that they represent in the polls.
Yeah.
And there
and
are
the amount they represent.
there
So
are
the
dozens
Kalkalit-
of other
Yeah.
parties, tiny ones that aren't even.
There's
in the
about
polls.
40 that are going to be in the
Yeah,
ballot,
so
right?
we're gonna focus on only
Okay.
those that you see in the polls.
Okay.
So the next two are in the polls, but they almost always under the threshold. Okay,
Which
so
means they will not enter parliament.
yes, because you need a certain amount of votes to.
Yeah. But
to
it's a
pass.
question whether they will. Okay. Yeah.
Right. So the first one is Yaron Zalicha's party, the Economic Party.
So the reason they're first is because they are the least important because they have a very
Small amount
a
of.
small amount of getting inside parliament. Though that is a big issue because once they don't enter, all those votes go to all the
Yeah.
other parties, and if they belong to one of the segments of parliament, then that segment actually loses those mandates.
Right.
So
And they are in the anti-BB.
yeah, so they are in the anti-Bibi
Group.
group.
So just
Club.
to clarify that, basically there's a threshold to enter the Israeli parliament. If you don't pass the threshold, all the votes that you got, there's what's called a leftover agreement, and they get split up. And what Yoav is saying is that if you're on one side of the aisle, then you're actually hurting your side of the aisle by losing and not passing the threshold because some of your votes actually go to the other side.
Exactly. And the threshold is pretty high. It's, if I'm not mistaken, 3.25%.
Yeah.
So if you get 3% of all the votes, you take all those votes to the trash. But if you go a little above it, then you get 4 seats, which makes you, today, gives you a lot of power.
Which is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, that's the problem with our system. Maybe we'll get into that. But I also want to say that Naftali Bennett, we'll talk about him, a few elections ago, 3 elections ago, on the first round, he didn't get into parliament because of 1,400 votes.
Wow.
Crazy.
Crazy.
Wow. Crazy.
And all those votes.
So
Could
what
have
is
avoided all
the
this.
economic party?
So the economic party is headed by a guy called Yaron Zalicha, which is a professor today in one of the colleges, and he was the Chashav HaKlali, you'll have to help me, at the Ministry of
like
Treasure.
main accountant
Yeah,
of the
so
ministry.
that's actually what it was.
Yeah.
He's an accountant, a professor of accountability. And
No, but he's an economist.
he's an
also.
economist. He's a right-wing economist. A question, but he basically says he's a right-wing
It's like scratching a chalkboard for
I'm
us.
sorry. But if we really he's not. Okay, he worked with Bibi a lot of time.
Yeah.
Also as the head accountant of whatever, and Bibi brought him because they had the same ideological views. Both Netanyahu was very right economically, and Zalicha at least was. Sorry, Nor. And Zalicha, a few years after working with Netanyahu, decided that Netanyahu, first of all, he doesn't really represent the economic
wine.
He doesn't really represent the ideology he says, the right-wing ideology. And second of all, he says that he's corrupt.
Yeah.
But
He
that's
basically, he hates him.
Yeah, but we have to say that since 2013, Zalicha is publicly telling the voters that he chooses left. In 2013, he campaigned for Shali Yachimovich, which I also campaigned for, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And he was her, he spoke for her. Thank you. And she's very left-wing. She's a socialist. So basically, maybe he's not right-wing. And in 2015,
Anymore, at least.
and in 2015, he was for Meretz, which is really the left-wing part of Israel.
So, okay, so we have Zalicha with the Kalkalit party. I have to say his name is not very...
Not very English friendly.
like you want to run for politics, you got to change your name to something a little catchier.
And he's also probably not enough of a name to bring his own
But
entire
it's
party.
because his name is Zalicha. No one's, you
just
can't
because of
chant
the
it.
name, I think
Zalicha.
there's a racial scent to what you're saying.
No!
I will
come on.
not
No,
continue this
come on.
discussion.
We don't let that shit in here.
We're
We're not. We're racist.
You have a problem with his head.
No, I'm
you
kidding.
have a problem with his head. I will not take it.
No.
Okay.
So we have Yaron Zalicha and the Kalkalit party. What's next?
No, wait.
No, we can't talk about each of them. We're not gonna get to the end of the list. We gotta go through them. We can't spend half the episode talking. You just want to badmouth him. It's okay. We understand.
No, but we
he's
didn't.
not even getting any.
But why?
votes.
But why?
Because he's
Because
not important.
he's not a name. Not because his name is wrong, but because he's not a name. Who will vote for him?
It's his
He's
name.
a professor
It's
for...
his name. Trust me. I also
Okay.
studied political
Anyway, he
science.
claims he will pass. All the polls are wrong, and he will pass.
Yeah.
So
But there's a big chance that he will... the question is he go?
Not falling for that shit again.
Yeah.
yeah.
I voted Fagel in the first
Oh my
round.
God.
Okay, yeah.
Today you think... By the way, Feiglin, you think today that he's like crazy with the vaccines and all, no?
Yeah. But I mean,
Okay.
I'm not interested in him anymore.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I put it behind me. I try not to remind
like
myself
an
of those
X.
days. Yeah.
An embarrassing X.
We look the other way when we cross each other on the street.
Okay.
All right, who's next? Meretz?
No, before Meretz, there's also Mansour Abbas.
Okay,
Oh,
so
yes.
Mansour Abbas...
Very interesting.
Yes, but we have to talk about, I think, and I'm sorry for the achlala, for putting them all in a group, but that's the question, what are the differences between the Arab parties in the Israeli Knesset, in the parliament? So basically you have 3 main parties, and all 3 represent a different fraction of the Arabs. One is Mansour Abbas's, Ram, which is basically the party of the Muslim Brotherhood. That means in the Arab political spectrum, they're religious. They are right, you're right, because they are religious. Then you have Balad, a different party, which is basically the nationalist party. They're big, like when they have this leader, the ethos, the mythical figure, their mythical figure is Nasser, the president of Egypt who fought us on Yom Kippur. And
that's who's
Balad.
Balad.
Balad are the nationalists. They're also right-wing.
But on the national, like pan-Arabic nationalists?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
And on the left of the Arabs, you have Hadash, which is...
we had Dov Khanin on the show.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so Hadash is the more leftist liberal movement of the Arabs. It basically is one of the reincarnations of the Communist Party. And they have this more vision of a democratic state, together a brotherhood between Arabs and Jews.
Under the red flag.
Yeah, so but their leader is
Ayman Odeh.
Yeah.
Who was the head of the joint list. And the joint list was formed because they raised the threshold. Exactly. So all the Arab parties had to unite. But...
So now the question is why they deunited. After they brought a lot of mandates, a lot of votes in the last round. They brought 15 votes. So the thing is, they raised the question whether they will support Bibi or not. The same question that divides today the Jewish political spectrum is the same question that divides the Arab spectrum. And Mansour Abbas said, I will not lishlol. I will
not rule him out.
Yes,
boycott
I will not rule Netanyahu out for prime minister. And that's after years that the Arab joint list was not ready to support any leader from any side. And after they were in the last election or the last few elections, the big thing was that they were ready to support Benny Gantz, the left leader, even though he's Zionist. And now Mansour Abbas also says, listen, I'm not in the game of Zionist, not Zionist. I want money. I want help from the government.
For my
for my people. I want to have a part in the political discussion based on resources, basically. Mm-hmm. And I'm ready to, if Netanyahu gives us more, we'll go with Netanyahu.
And that's the Muslim
Brotherhood. And so, are there any problematic people on that list? Is it just Mansour Abbas? They're not likely to get more? Are they even likely to pass the threshold? No.
They are. They are likely to pass.
So all today, from now, in today's, when we are recording this show, all of the Skarim, I'm sorry, all of the polls rule him out. Other than Yosef Makladeh, which is the Arab pollster for the Arabs who works with Channel 13, and he says they will go above the threshold, but he's the only one.
Because Abbas he's very strong in the boots on the ground, like ground operations and stuff.
Yeah, but there is a question whether he will...
But what I'm wondering is, since he's, in the Muslim Brotherhood, a lot of the Arab, the parties that are in the Arab joint list are kind of like on the fringe, right? Just like you have a lot of extremist parties on the right wing, right? So are there any problematic members, or are they more moderate?
First of all, I have to say, I'm not really acquainted with the list? Arab list. But most of the people you usually have problem with are on Balad. Now it's Hiba Yizbak, which is on Balad. She's the one who wrote posts glorifying Samir Kuntar, the murderer, and stuff like that. And you had
Khanin Zouabi, of course.
You had Khanin Zouabi and Balad, who invented Balad. It was Azmi Bshara, who's today in Qatar, if I'm not mistaken, because he is charged here with helping Hezbollah. So, that's a problem.
There's another list with, what's his name? Ibrahim something?
Tzortzor, I think. I'm not sure.
I don't think there are any.
I'm not sure.
But it's worth mentioning that recently Mansour Abbas from this alternative Arab list, he said that he doesn't support, he used the word terrorists
Yeah.
which is like
Pretty big.
pretty big. Yeah, he said he's against the Arab terrorists.
Yes, but
And,
they say that he used some kind of nuance. I didn't really go into that. I'm not sure it's that big as
He
we're
said
making it.
terrorist, which means baker in Arab.
Oh, I see.
I
No,
think he
but-
didn't
but-
use the right word. I don't know, because there are differences in our language, and they're using it in Hebrew and they're using it.
So this party is the not against Bibi Arab party.
Exactly.
Okay.
If you're speaking ideology, it's the religious Arab party. But if you're speaking politically, it's the pro-Bibi Arab party.
What's next on the
What is next? Meretz?
Meretz? I have everything here, by the way.
Okay.
So
Have it
what about
written.
Meretz?
I wrote. I have it
Oh,
here
okay.
for
Okay.
you too.
Thank you. Is
So
it here?
me-
Is it this one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Meretz on the Zionist spectrum of political parties is and some will say it's a question, but I don't think so. I think they truly are Zionist, but they are on the left. And the problem of Meretz is because they're so left, they never agreed to go since 2001. They were not in any government at all because they're too left. They did not agree to be with Netanyahu, but they also did not go with Olmert. So for 20 years, they are like the Arabs, the Arab parties, in the way that they do not influence the political discussion in the parliament. They
In the
influence it with
parliament,
their-
yes,
yeah,
not in the government.
not in the government, but because we have a democracy problem, so the government the coalition has almost absolute power
monopoly
over the
on-
Knesset.
Yeah.
You have to have a majority for every vote. There are questions, okay, but basically you need to have a majority, and if you don't have the government's help, you cannot really pass a vote, basically.
So
Who's at the head of Meretz? And
So
who's-
today
and
the
how
head of
many-
Meretz is a guy called Nitzan Horowitz. He was a reporter, and then he got inside politics. He tried to run for mayor here in Tel Aviv, and he left politics. He came back, basically. Nitzan Horowitz.
he's one of the three heads of parties who were at the IDF's radio and newspaper.
Yeah, right. Like Merav.
Yeah, we'll get to the rest, but it's
Okay.
interesting.
Yeah, I think Guy Zohar, my boss, wrote it in a tweet because he was with all three of them. There's a radio station in Israel called Galatz, and basically if we used to have head of parties from Seyeret Matkal, our Navy SEALs, today we have three head of parties who are from that radio
Army
station.
radio.
But we also have two head of parties which are from that Navy
Yeah.
SEALs.
So Meretz. So they're
What are
gonna
they
get,
expected to get?
they're gonna get like 4 or 5.
So there's a question whether Meretz will go above the threshold, but that's the question every election, and
But usually they pass because they have this
they always
big
passed, yes. But now
group
there's
of
a question.
supporters.
They got what? The last few elections, 5, 6?
Yes,
Yeah,
they
I
were.
think five.
Did
Yeah,
they get
5.
6 in it? No?
I don't think so.
Okay.
No, but don't forget they were with the Gesher and the Avodah Party.
Yes,
There was
they
a
ran-
but will not.
Yeah,
So
But-
one of the...
but they are. So just to sum it up, they are against Bibi, of course.
They are against Bibi, and ideologically they are on the far left, if we can say so.
Yeah.
They are,
Two-state solution.
which I don't think is a far left, but basically you have a question because one of they're only like there are it's a short list, and one of its heads is the deputy head of the army, Yair Golan,
Yeah.
which is very leftist, but until 2 years ago, he was almost the major general of the army.
Yeah.
That's our left.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Now we're
speaking of
getting-
him,
Yeah.
he's one of the parties to plummet the fastest since the last election. Kachol
Meretz?
Lavan.
Kachol Lavan. Okay, so Kachol
So-
Lavan is a big discussion. Kachol
Blue
Lavan,
and white.
yes,
party.
blue and white for the last 3 elections was the big party who ran against the Likud. They were only invented 3 elections ago, and they were a coalition of the party of Benny Gantz, who was a former head of military, and
Lapid.
Chief of Staff.
yeah, chief of staff, and he ran together with Yair Lapid, who's the head of Yesh Atid, which is a left centrist party. and we'll have to talk about him soon.
Who's the son of a
Son
famous
of-
Israeli reporter and likes
Yeah.
cigars and boobs.
He was our like
No, is that not accurate? I think that's what Wikipedia says.
I mean, what?
You
That
know?
he likes boobs?
They like cigars
Booze.
and boobs.
in boobs. I
Yeah,
thought you said
because there's that
booze.
picture with him in the
Yair
boobs.
Lapid.
Yeah.
There's one picture. Never mind. It's a picture of a
He-
famous.
When I think of Yair Lapid, I think of the picture of him with a cigar, and the one with I think he's actually. It's the same picture. I think he's holding a cigar and he's got his face in her.
It's Einat Saruf. She's a famous
Yeah.
singer of public.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Never
Oh,
mind.
come on. What do you mean, never mind? That's the most interesting. This is the best part of the election.
I mean, all men love boobs.
Yeah, no,
Oh,
I know.
oh my God, that's a race. No, I'm kidding.
That's
That's
sexist.
sexist or racist or
You hate
whatever.
black people.
Yeah, Zalicha boobs. Okay. Anyway, so that was a very big party, and it ran against Bibi with Benny Gantz, Yair Lapid, another chief of staff, which ran with Bibi a decades ago, which is named Bogi Elon, and he was a right-wing politician, and Gabi Ashkenazi, who was also chief of staff. It was 3 chief of staffs
And a
and
reporter.
a reporter that ran against Bibi and got, in the second round, they got even more votes than him. But Benny Gantz had one main...
They couldn't keep their shit together. Come
yeah,
on, let's just say it. They
Okay.
couldn't keep their shit
Yeah,
together.
but the reason, the explanation of what you're saying is that they had one main promise to the voter, and every election, that was the biggest question, whether they are going to form a coalition with Netanyahu or not. And Benny Gantz said again and again and again, and that's the reason we went to elections 3 times in a row. I will not get into a government with Benjamin Netanyahu. And after 3 elections, in the corona,
he said,
sorry,
okay.
we have the corona now. I have no way but to go with Benjamin Netanyahu.
To save the people.
Yeah. I believe him, by the way. He split blue and white between him and Yair Lapid. Also, some may say, I'm amongst them, by the way, but that's an unpopular opinion, that Yair Lapid was the one that split Kahol Lavan. But the fact is, those 2 parties split, and Benny Gantz went with Benjamin Netanyahu. We'll not discuss what contract they signed, but it didn't work out. And Lapid went to the opposition.
and the Israeli left was left like the children of a divorced couple.
Yeah, so the Israeli left
Who do we go with?
after the promises of Benny Gantz and the split that he made with Kahol Lavan, then he lost a lot of his supporters, which are, 1, for Bibi, and second, have a question. You promised to us 3 times. That's a pretty big mistake. So he's now on the threshold verge.
He's still in the government with Bibi.
Yes, he's still in the government.
And his campaign is not Bibi.
Right, exactly. He says what everyone told him before. Don't go with Bibi. He will...
Yeah, but the main reason that the government is dissolving is because of that they couldn't come to an agreement on the budget.
Yes, but there's a big question. I simply don't know if to get into it. But Benny Gantz got a promise from Netanyahu that they will have a rotation. After 1 year and a half, Benny Gantz will get the appointment. They signed it, they put it into law, but then Netanyahu used a hole in the contract, pirza. And he actually, because he didn't pass the budget, then Benny Gantz did not get the prime ministership. It's more complicated than that, but that's basically what happened. Benny Gantz, with only 15 votes with him, he came into the Knesset with Yair Lapid. They got 35 votes, if I'm not mistaken. But after their split, Benny Gantz was left with 15. He got into the government with half of the power of government, even though he was only 15 votes and Bibi had 58 together with the Haredim.
And now he is barely at the threshold, which
Yes.
is like gives him 3-4 mandates. at
Exactly. And there's
Many
a question
people
whether
wanted
he
him
will.
not to run.
Right, because they're
Again.
afraid he will take the votes with him.
Right. If he doesn't pass, Bibi's chances to get 61 are enormous, basically.
I'm not sure because I'm not that well acquainted with the polls, but
Yeah. If one of them,
It's like Benny Gantz's curse.
Yeah.
He's like bound to help Bibi
but
win.
if he will get inside Knesset, and there's also a legal question if he doesn't, because the law has changed to make him prime minister in a year and a half, like half a year from now, this November, there's a question whether if there's not going to be another government, a new government, if they won't be able to form a government, there's a question whether Benny Gantz will become prime minister after
in
all.
November, automatically.
Because of the law, but it's a legal question.
That's one of the reasons why he wouldn't quit. Also, if he passes, he's going to be a pretty influential. He's very small, but here the system works like that even if you're very small, you can be, very influential.
Yeah. So because you need a coalition of 61, every party that takes you to the threshold of 61,
magic number.
So it gets a lot of power, and that's one of the reasons in Israel it's hard to form a coalition. And once you have a coalition, each party, even if it's very small, only 4 chairs, like Naftali Bennett with only 4
mandates.
Yes, right?
Yeah.
4
Yeah.
mandates. He
Yeah.
got Secretary of Minister of Defense, right? And they got a few more ministries.
Yeah. Okay, so that's fascinating. Blue and white party. What's next?
What is next?
Avoda.
So Avoda is the Labour Party. It was once
They formed
yeah,
the
they formed
country.
the country. They're a reincarnation of Mapai, the historic Mapais, Mapai, which is Ben Gurion, Rabin, and but since 2001, Ehud Barak, they were not in prime ministership. Since 2011, after Barak split from the Labour, they weren't in government. They were with Bibi from 2009 to 2011, if I'm not mistaken.
And now?
And now they almost went under the threshold, but then Merav Michaeli, which is also a reporter, used to be a reporter,
Wait,
media
but they are in
person.
government, right? Technically.
Now they are in, right,
Yeah,
sorry. Now they are in government.
They
You're
went
right.
in
They went
together
in-
with Gantz.
Again, and the big thing is that their basic promise was, I will not go with Bibi. That's one of the historical things about this question. It's the question that divides the political parties, but nobody is able to support it.
And again, they are sitting in the government right now, and their campaign is
but
against
no,
Bibi.
but it's more complicated than
Yes.
this. The secretaries who are sitting now in government will not be in the party next
But
time.
technically,
Technically, yes.
You do what you got to do to get the votes. And then what you do afterwards is, it's another story.
No, but yes. Because the thing with Amir Peretz, if you Google him, he used to have this big mustache. And in these elections in Israel,
a year ago,
after his entire political figure is based on his mustache, right? You studied political science. You know how important it is.
I didn't, but
He took off his mustache to say, this is my promise to you. I took off my mustache because I promised to you I will not get with Bibi to his
and
government.
then he put on a fake mustache
Yes,
and he
exactly.
said, "Ha, gotcha."
But the thing is,
And he joined Bibi.
and I don't think he lied, because his main his promise was, I will not make Bibi prime minister. But once Gantz got into with Bibi, and that was a fact, it didn't matter what.
You know what?
whether
That's
he
like
gets in
that's
or
like
not.
Bibi using the loophole in the contract.
It's my opinion as a voter.
Okay.
but
Yes.
so the Labour Party now is led by Merav Michaeli, another
Right.
ex-journalist from Galei Tzahal, the radio
Right.
station. She was elected in primaries,
Right, she was elected in primaries.
but there is a big problem with this party, number 7.
That's a big problem. I don't think it's a big problem, but number
Tell
7.
us about number 7.
But because you need to understand the political discussion in Israel, I will tell you. They have. First of all, I have to make a Gilui Naot.
Disclaimer.
I
Full
know
discretion.
we're going to discuss a
Full
contest-
disclosure.
Yeah, a full disclosure. I know her husband.
Lior Schlein.
No.
No.
Ibtisam Marana.
Ibtisam
Ibtisam Marana.
Okay.
I know her husband from my studies at high school, and he's a very nice guy.
Jewish guy.
He's a Jewish guy, a very nice guy. So the Labour Party still has primaries, and on its 7th slot, this Arab woman named Ibtisam Marana. So she passed, and a lot of posts and comments she made on Facebook from 8 and 13 years ago rose of her saying very anti-Zionist stuff, discussing what she does at Holocaust Day, that she drives without care, and
she doesn't stop for the siren, and that she
and she wants to destroy an
she
Israeli
wrote
city.
in a comment she wants to destroy.
It was in an
Zichron
interview
Yaakov.
for a local newspaper. Actually,
It was an interview. It
Yeah.
wasn't a post. Okay.
That she wants to destroy Zichron Yaakov.
Do you think she wants to destroy Zichron Yaakov?
Yes.
I don't think so.
Yes.
And I think today that a lot of people make. It's different what you say.
a lot of people want to destroy Zichron Yaakov.
No, I think that today when you have your entire... You used to have discussions like we do now without a tape recorder. And today all of the discussions are on Facebook for all to see.
Absolutely.
And sometimes you say things, you may believe in them, by the way, but they don't really represent you. And I think...
I agree, but she did this basically like apology piece, right?
Yeah.
They interviewed her and she apologized and she cried. Her apology was the most insincere thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, I didn't buy it either. Also, they didn't ask her
She
about.
was like angry. She was like defensive while
So
apologizing. It's like if you really want to apologize for those kind of things, you take a step back. You say, "Listen, I really regret it. I shouldn't have said those things. I believe in." But she didn't. She like barely
Deflected
said, "I'm
it.
sorry," and then immediately. So I don't think she actually regrets it. Is my point.
Maybe. I don't know. But the thing is, that is the main question regarding Zionist party, which are left, like the Labour Party. What is the price they are willing to pay for Arab politicians to join them? Because again, the tragedy, I think, of the Jewish state of Israel with its Arab members is that it's a Jewish country, and you cannot expect the Arabs to sing the national anthem and to empathize with our flags and symbols.
Although last episode we had...
You have some Arabs who do, but
yeah.
that's not my expectation, and it's not my expectation as a Zionist.
And also another...
It's mine. Come on, they're living here.
No.
They gotta.
I don't agree. Okay, that's your opinion. I'm saying it's not my expectation. On the other hand...
You are offending my basic truth.
No,
Truth.
it's okay.
No, I'm kidding.
But listen, I'm not saying... But now I'm saying as a former Labour member, even not member, like a member of the party as a... I don't know.
Yeah, you were a member of the party.
Yeah, but it's not like I was not a part
You
of
weren't
that
on the
member.
list.
Yeah, exactly.
You
I
were
was just a member.
Yeah.
A paying member, and I was also a head of a branch, but it doesn't really reflect anything. But the thing is, I think you should... I understand the conflict, and it doesn't mean that I am willing to vote for a party which has politicians that aren't Zionist. I simply do not think that it's such a big deal. I wouldn't want to vote for a political member like that, but I don't think it's a big deal that you should make it...
But to many people it is. On the left. So they say.
It's a I think the right does use it for things that
but there's a claim that to some Avodah members it's a problem.
No, okay, so
there's a claim. It cannot be proved.
Of course there's a claim, because even if I was now a member of the Labour Party, I would say I don't want to vote for such a political such an opponent. But sorry for the I know I'm using incorrect words, but but you understand what I want to say.
Deal with it.
Yeah, exactly. You can put the right words on me. But I saw the news.
Oh my God, I'm sorry. That's just a genius idea. We have to. That's a startup. Autocorrect for voice. Where
amazing,
like 7 seconds out, it just replaces the. Okay, I gotta go.
Eytan, you are a god, Eytan.
Boom.
Whether did I say it or did you put it in my mouth? You are a god.
Was it my voice autocorrect app? Okay, yes.
So anyway, you don't really. You usually when you have those journalist pieces on people from the party which are mad about, you don't see names, and if you see names, they don't reflect anything.
Yeah, okay, but
of course there
I
are
think
people
it's
who
also
don't like
worth mentioning that another debate that you might make from this party is whether or not open primaries are good for a party or bad for a party.
That's a big question. I used to think they are good. Today I'm not sure, but when you don't have primaries, you have an institutional problem for the party, and the greatest example to that is Gantz, a party with 35 voters, which is now extinct.
Mandate,
And that's because they didn't have an institution. That's why I think I have this philosophical idea that the Gantz should have been the institution, but never mind.
Okay, let's move on.
But there's good and bad utilitarian-wise, and then there's good and bad, like...
Exactly.
like
Ideologically,
morally.
it's great, but
Sometimes
in the
it's
end,
not,
it
serve
doesn't
their-
work.
Yeah.
It ruined the Labour Party.
What's
Okay,
next?
who are we talking about?
כחול לבן, הציונות
תקווה
הדתית.
חדשה.
Wait, הציונות הדתית also.
Okay,
Real
יאללה.
quick.
Even though we're going to the right now. So the Zionist...
The religious Zionist.
Yeah, which is basically the Hebrew way of saying Orthodox, light Orthodox Jews. Not
Modern
Yeah,
Orthodox.
modern Orthodox. It's a right-wing party led by Bezalel Smotrich. It's basically the reincarnation of the historic Mafdal party, but I'm really simplifying it.
Yeah.
And the big thing about them this time that it runs with a guy called Itamar Ben-Gvir, which is from a party which is, I will say, he won't, that is a reincarnation of Meir Kahana's party. Very right-wing, a party that was illegal in Israel. And
because they advocated for the expulsion of
Arabs, right. And for a Jewish state in its nationalistic idea.
Yeah, ethnic cleansing.
Exactly. So they were outlawed. A lot of friends of Itamar Ben-Ari were also outlawed too, Benzi Gopstein and Michael Ben-Ari. And now it's a big thing that they are running together, and Benjamin Netanyahu says he will welcome them in his coalition, though he will not give Ben-Ari a ministerial
position.
Exactly.
Ben Gvir is like, just to give you an idea, the guy, the main bit that's running in the news is that he has a picture of Baruch Goldstein.
He had
a picture, yeah.
He had in his living
room. He had
room.
It above his couch. Now he has it above his bed, probably.
Exactly.
Or in the bathroom.
So,
he had a picture of Baruch Goldstein, which was a doctor who killed 30 Arabs.
Terrorist.
Yeah, he's a terrorist.
A Jewish terrorist.
And he had his photo in his living room. That's how radical he is.
I have my grandmother here, but you know.
I'm sure she killed someone.
Well,
yeah.
I'm not sure.
Your grandpa.
Maybe.
Slowly.
Okay, yeah.
Women. They kill us with their boobs.
Which leads us to
It's true.
Yair Lapid.
Okay,
Oh no,
so,
not yet. Okay,
Tikva
so
Chadasha.
Okay, so Tikva Chadasha has everything in its story, because Tikva Chadasha is led by Gideon Sa'ar, which was an opposition to Netanyahu in the Likud, which basically means it's a new party which is led by former members of the Likud. And the main difference between Tikva Chadasha and the Likud party... New Hope, right? Is Bibi. Is whether if you are right-wing, but you're against Bibi, then that is the party for you. And I will say it's the secular part, or secular... Mesorati,
right.
Traditional,
secular
secular right wing. But let's talk about them for a sec, because I've been they're kind of like the Benny Gantz of this election in the sense that they don't talk much.
They talk a lot, I think.
So can you give us a rundown a little bit of their economic platform, their national security
platform? That doesn't mean I can, but basically they say they are right wing. That says they are for the great idea of Israel.
One state.
State's not a one-state solution in the idea that you give Palestinian rights, but one state in the idea that you don't give Palestinian statehood. And but basically,
capitalist ideas.
Yes, they are pretty capitalist now in their. I think in their.
What are they advocating for? Economically, do we know?
I can't really.
We don't have time for it, actually.
Yeah, the time is the problem, not the fact that I didn't read, because I don't think it matters. But basically, they are right wing, but anti-Bibi, and that
against,
also
reforms in the judicial system. Also, very hard on
okay,
that.
So that's the question: when you are against Bibi, whether you are against Bibi or you are against what Bibi wants to do to the judicial branch. And they say they do have criticism over the judicial branch, but they are not willing to go against the the institutions of the state like Bibi does. They say that Bibi's criticism is ruining Israel, while their criticism wants to build Israel. But that's basically my...
I'm sure that really nuanced message will
pass through.
Really
but
get the voters.
It's run by, it was created, this party, by Gideon Sa'ar,
Yes.
who was the main rival. He was a pretty dominant Likud member.
Yeah, and he was once pro-Bibi. In 2015, I think he left the political, or maybe before.
He was a minister under Bibi.
Yes, he was the minister for
Education.
Education, and before
Internal
that, Internal Affairs.
Yeah.
And then he left the political world for 4 years. Then he came back, and he ran against Bibi after
In the primaries.
But only after a few.
He lost, although he got like 20-something%, which
is
against
nice.
Bibi is not bad.
Yeah.
But then, eventually he couldn't last any longer under Bibi, so he said, "I'm going to form my own party."
But what you need to understand, listeners, is that Gideon Sa'ar represents the main discussion in the Israeli political. He represents it because he's right wing. He represents everything Bibi is for, only he's against Bibi. Now, he will tell you he's more right-wing than Bibi, and that's a question. We can open it when we talk about Bibi, if we will.
And he started with like 17 mandates in the polls, 18 mandates, and now he's like barely 10, 11, and he's in a problem, I think. Okay, anyway, but it's debatable. But we because Eytan is such a bad host, we skipped Israel Beitenu.
So Israel Beitenu...
Real quick.
Israel Beitenu is the Russian... Basically, it's the Russian political party. Though they will tell you it's...
That's racist.
No, it's not.
Racist.
It's headed by Victor Lieberman, which is Russian. And and they are...
Moldavian.
Again? Moldavian, right. And because I'm Romanian, we have we have a conflict.
Nemesis.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, it's two things. It's one... It's the party, basically, of the Russian...
So it's not the Russia, it's the Soviet party.
Ex-Soviet
party.
Yeah.
And it's a right-wing party, but a very liberal party when for questions of religious and state.
Yeah.
And it used to be pro-Bibi, but in 2019, Lieberman decided he won't go with Bibi into government.
Nobody knows really why up until today.
Right. He says it's because of... Then he said it's because the law of draftment to draft Orthodox Jews into the army. That is not the case. We will not get into it. But he's the reason we went to elections. Because he, like Gideon Sa'ar, represents that discussion. He broke the pattern. The right doesn't go with Bibi... automatically.
Yeah.
And
he was the first. When Yoav says he caused the first elections, we're talking the first round out of 4. That was because he's the reason.
He was the first who came and said, I'm right wing, but I'm not Bibi. I'm against him.
Yeah.
This is back in what, March of 2000?
April 2019
was the election.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then it took time until they tried to form a government.
Yeah.
From
Bibi was sure he'll join.
Yeah.
But in the last minute he said no, and that's what. And now we're here. So he gets always 6-7 mandates, easy. He has this concrete floor.
He says he will not go with Bibi by any means. He will not go with Bibi. He's part of the anti-Bibi fraction.
And anti-Orthodox also.
Right. And that's together with Gideon Sa'ar. And in order to form a coalition, that puts Gideon Sa'ar in a problem. Because if he wants Gideon Sa'ar to go with Lieberman, he will not be able to bring the Orthodox Jews with him. Because Lieberman is anti-Orthodox and anti-Bibi. So that is why we will have a problem to form a coalition in the next election if it's not Bibi.
Guys, if you're confused, we're just getting started.
Oh, no.
So now we have the two Orthodox parties, Shas and Yehadut HaTorah.
Okay, so basically what is to know about the two Orthodox party? We have two because one represents the Sephardic Jews and one represents the Ashkenazi Jews. It sounds horrible when you say it in English.
We're
horrible,
a very pluralistic country, guys.
I don't think it's pluralistic to have a party.
No, we don't define ourselves based on our ethnicity.
Yeah, except for those two parties. And those are two Orthodox Jewish party with the hats and everything you think. One represents the Sephardic, which means they also represent non-Orthodox, really Orthodox Jews, but very traditional Sephardic Jews who simply vote for them, but also Orthodox Sephardic Jews. And the Ashkenazi Jewish party, which is split into two fractions. One is the Hasidic Jews, and ones are the Lithuanian Jews. Doesn't matter, another kind of Haredic Ashkenazi Jews. What is to know about them is that basically the members only represent the big rabbis, and that they will go with Bibi no matter what. Even though now, for the first time, they are saying we are not in Bibi's pocket, but
Nobody believes that.
nobody believes
And
that.
they always get together, those two parties, like 14, 15
Yes.
mandates between the two of them. Yeah.
And they say the greatness of Bibi is the way he was able to make them an automatic part of the Likud. They will always go with Bibi. They are in his pocket.
And as far as their political agenda, they are...
So that's a question. Regarding the separation of religious and state, they are very right-wing. Regarding Zionist
They're
agenda...
very, not necessarily right-wing. They're
In
against
Israel-
it.
No, they are for religious and state.
Yeah, they're against separation.
Exactly. And I would say in Israel, that's a right-wing...
They're also against bar mitzvahs for dogs.
They are against it. I don't know why. It's very funny to give bar mitzvah to a dog. And I also circumcised mine.
Your dog.
But if you give
He needs to be Jewish.
If you give your dog like a bar mitzvah, he's like 80 at that point.
You
do it
by
in dog years?
You do it in dog years.
Ah.
Come on, Eytan.
So wait,
What
when
are we,
he's two?
monsters?
When he's
we're
two?
not we were not reformers. We're not reform. We don't do it in really 13. Anyway, economically, they are very... The
Left.
big question, the thing is, they are in Bibi's pocket. And it was always the question, who is willing to give the Haredim more? And it still is a question, whether there is someone on the left who is willing to give them more, and then maybe they will go with him. But on the social level, or whatever you will call it, on anthropological level, you can say that the ones who vote for Shas are really for Bibi. And I think that the Orthodox Jews, some will say that today the Orthodox Ashkenazi Jews are also for Bibi, but I'm simply not sure.
Okay, and next we have Bennett.
So Bennett...
The right-wing party, he calls himself, or rightward.
Rightward.
Yeah,
So Bennett, again, do we tell his story? Bennett was... do we tell a story? Okay.
The origin story, yeah, well, it's not that interesting.
Anyway, so it's a very...
Tragic.
It's not only a tragedy, but it's a very if every other political party, I can say they represent this, they represent that. Bennett was once the head of the religious party, the Orthodox religious, the modern religious party, right? But he always wanted to become more pan-Israelian, like more...
consensus.
A consensus one. So he left the religious party and formed a new party, which is called Rightwards. And there's a question whether it is a modern Orthodox party or simply a right-wing party, a secular party. He says it's for all. Anyway, because you can't really put a finger what is the difference in ideology between him,
Bennett, the great uniter.
Exactly, that's what he calls himself today, but every politician calls himself today the great uniter.
Yeah.
There aren't really ideological differences between Bennett, Netanyahu, and Gidon Saar.
And
And Smotrich. The main difference is whether Bibi today is a leftist, is a really right wing or not, and the question of, again, two-state solution. Bibi recognized it in some way, even now with Trump, and Bennett will never accept it because
until he's prime minister, and then he'll probably...
I don't think so. I think because he's religious, he really believes. Netanyahu has an historical understanding and a security understanding of the need of Judea and Samaria. Naftali Bennett really believes we have a God-given right.
Yeah.
That's different, I think.
But here's the biggest question. Is he in the for Bibi group or against Bibi group?
So basically, the answer to that, I think, is simple. He's the for Bibi group. It's true that he's not in Bibi's pocket. He doesn't say, I'm automatically with Bibi. But he is willing to form a coalition with Netanyahu. And now he said he's not willing to form a coalition with Lapid. That's a question if that is a promise or not. But that makes the problem of who can...
So many promises.
Yeah, who will be able to lead a coalition if not Netanyahu?
I think the problem is, it's not that they make promises and they don't keep them. They're up against a really tough issue, is that they make a bunch of promises and then they don't know which one to keep because they don't know.
They contradict each other.
No, they don't know which promise got them the votes. They don't know if this promise got them the votes. Or I think we need to pass a law where politicians in an election are only allowed to make one promise.
I think
one promise. And then they'll know exactly what they need to do when
they should
get
not
the vote.
draw red lines. They should not. But again, I think, and I have I don't know if it's a popular or unpopular opinion. In the elections, Bibi used to tell that Gantz doesn't have the votes, like he does now. He said, Gantz doesn't have the votes to form a coalition without the Arab parties. And everyone said, that's racist. I also think it's racist, but I also think it's true. Gantz did not have the votes without the Arab parties. And
you mean the mandates?
The mandates, right.
Yeah.
He did not have the mandates. So he couldn't form a coalition, and that's why he went with Netanyahu.
Mm-hmm.
Gantz lied. Benjamin Netanyahu told the truth. And the reason no one listened to them is because the media was so into calling him a racist, they didn't ask for a minute, wait, maybe he's right. Now I'm oversimplifying it. Gantz was asked what will he do without the Arab parties, but he didn't have any choice because he put himself between too many promises.
A rock in a hard place.
Yeah.
All right. So, finally, the two big front runners.
Okay.
Yesh Atid.
So Yesh Atid, and before we say front runners, the big problem in these elections, I said there are many big problems, but one of the big problems is you don't have really a big party that goes against Netanyahu. Netanyahu tries to tell us that Yair Lapid is the big candidate confronting him, but there are three possible candidates confronting him: Lapid, Bennett, and Saar. Each one of them will need the other one in order to form a coalition, and there's a question: who will give who the mandate to form that government? Basically, now it seems that Lapid gets the most mandates out of the anti-Netanyahu group.
Which is around. By the way, we didn't say how many Bennett is expected to get.
I think now it's about 10.
10,
11.
And then Yesh Atid, what?
About
16?
18, 19 even.
Wow.
Yeah, and
Something
some
like
say
that.
he'll pass eventually the
20?
the 20.
But even if he'll have 20 and Gideon Saar and Bennett will each have 10, it doesn't matter because he needs them in order to form a coalition, and we're not sure they will give him the mandate to form it. Bennett said he won't. We don't know.
They can strike a deal between
Maybe.
the three of them.
But it's a question. And basically, Yesh Atid today represents the center left. Yair Lapid was a media star, and he formed Yesh Atid as what he said was the answer of the middle class to the Orthodox parties.
Mm-hmm.
He tried to say, now we will...
Make America great again.
we will veto every government that wants us in order to form a coalition with things that are important to the middle class. That was his promise in 2013. He went with Bibi. Bibi to his...
Show me the money.
Yeah, exactly.
Was
Bibi,
his motto, right?
With Gantz, he didn't go. And in 2014, they split. And since 2015, he's the great opposition to Bibi, not consistently.
Also, one of the best politicians in the game.
Yes, but I think that because he came into politics with big anti-Haredi ideology, he did not understand their power, and that's the reason today he is not able to form any government.
Yeah, that's his big weakness, essentially.
I mean, you have a serious problem with these parties that are center-right and opposing Bibi, center-right, center-left, is that without Bibi, without the Haredim, and without the Arabs, you can barely vote.
Right.
You can barely build a coalition.
Which is why Lapid says now, without hesitation, he will go with the Arabs.
Right.
He will go with the Arabs.
Lapid.
Yeah.
He says today, for the first time, after he said it's not a possibility, By the way, he lies about it. He said he did say it was a possibility, but he doesn't. He says today that he is willing to get their recognition that they will vote for him as prime minister. But that means he doesn't have Gideon Sa'ar and doesn't have Bennett.
Yeah.
Again, he's not able to form a coalition.
How nice of him,
with
though. How nice of him.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm willing to accept their recommendation.
Yes, but today even I think Lieberman is willing to get their recommendation.
Wow.
Like, so,
Wow. They should say thank you.
right.
But okay, so he gets like 18, 19, and he has this famous saying that I thought is interesting. He says that eventually the next government will be formed at the night after the elections with a phone call between me and Gideon Sa'ar.
Really?
Yeah, didn't hear that
No,
quote? Yes.
but
So that's his quote. A phone call between me and Gideon Sa'ar.
Wow, that's a really
very arrogant.
specific promise. We're talking about promises. It's not
Yeah.
even like I won't go. It's like, I will have a phone call. On this phone call will be Gideon Sa'ar, and this is how we will form the government.
you know what it reminds me? That Bibi said that on the first day of after the election, I think in 2015, the first party, the first one I will call is Miriam Peretz, the mother of the two soldiers that died. And the second phone call will be to Naftali Bennett to form a government. He did not call him. That's it.
Did he call the first?
I hope.
Yeah. He did. So, okay. So what are the chances of Lapid to become... How you got to go?
No,
you
I
have a deadline? Okay.
I simply wanted to see if
I think we're done. There's no other
Mm.
parties. Really.
No, but does he have a chance, Lapid,
Lapid?
in your opinion?
I got no idea. I don't see how he can form a government, but I used to have so many... I used to bet, and I no longer do. About,
I used to have so much
listen,
money.
you can go
I
to
used to bet, and now I'm going back home in
you can go to
in the bus, in the public
different
transport.
podcasts that I was interviewed in before the first elections, and I said Bibi is done. I said Kahol Lavan will get the Likud without Bibi, and he's done. And I was sure. And today I seem so stupid, so I will never do that again.
Don't let that
until
get
I
you
will
down.
do.
We
I
had
will
Oren
do.
Nahari on the podcast. He made some predictions like a couple of years back
Yeah,
on
it's
the
okay.
podcast. He
Really?
got them all wrong.
Really?
Then we had him on again. We laughed in his face. He said Joe Biden would win by a landslide.
And he
And
Really?
he was right.
But
you
I
just
got-
gotta keep making promises,
But
man.
I got no bet now. I'm not. I don't know who will. When Lapid got 19 votes, I said I don't understand anything anymore. When Lapid just got into politics, he got 19 votes. My head exploded. I did not believe that, and I said that's it. I do not understand politics in like no one understands it.
But a broken
yeah.
clock is...
Right? No, but
Yeah.
I don't. I also didn't understand the political. Once I thought that Bibi will be out, then
Yeah.
really,
Yeah,
I'm
well,
really-
many thought.
And I didn't think because people don't believe him, people will not vote for him. I thought the Likud, the members of the Likud will say, okay, we can't form a government without him, then we'll form a government without him.
Yeah,
But they didn't, and
yeah.
All
Which
right.
leads us to, and now it's my disclaimer, I work on the campaign of
So
BB.
you're not allowed to talk
Yeah,
at
well,
all.
I'll just chip in from time to time.
with
But,
subliminal messages.
We get to the biggest party according to the polls.
so Likud, the big right-wing party, our version of the Republican Party, if you want.
It's worth mentioning before we start
Yeah.
that, the biggest party next is 19 mandates, and the Likud is way up ahead. Like, it's leaving dust to all the other parties, which by itself, it's pretty amazing that after everything that happened, still, like, you have 1 million people who go and they put...
Oh.
What did I do? I disconnected
That's it.
something.
You broke it all.
Yeah.
You broke it all.
No. Oh, yeah. It's this.
You with your Likud enthusiasm.
Yeah. Oh, there we go.
Starts drooling
Yeah,
over the
so-
microphone. Likud, yes.
Yeah, and...
So the 1 million
yeah,
people keep voting.
they
Yeah,
go and
it's crazy
it's-
that 1 million idiots just keep going back.
But
and
it
doing
doesn't
the
matter
same
if it's the
shit.
biggest party. It has no value, as we saw with Kahol Lavan. You
Yeah.
need to form a coalition.
Yeah.
And the Likud have the Haredim. That's it.
So tell us about the Likud.
So the Likud is our biggest right-wing party. It used to represent a right-wing agenda, but today it does represent, I think, Netanyahu.
Even the
and-
camera gave up. It's like, this is too much,
If
guys.
you need me to, I don't know, whatever. So I'll just look if I have
No.
something horrible and sorry.
Oh, there's
Just
a
to see.
crisis?
Oh
I
no!
only
Oh,
try
no.
to see if there's no crisis. Right?
Okay.
Okay.
Anyway, so
Likud.
Bibi.
Well,
Okay.
what more do you need to say?
Yeah.
The name goes before, the reputation goes before him.
Yeah.
No, but tell us about the Likud.
Okay, so the Likud is our right-wing party. It used to represent a right-wing agenda, but today it represents Netanyahu. I'm not saying that Netanyahu is not right-wing. I'm only saying it represents Netanyahu, and there's a question what part of the Netanyahu's ideology are right-wing and what are just his vision. Because you can say he's right-wing because he doesn't want a two-state solution, but or he wants to... but
He wants
he's for a two-state solution, but it basically gives the Palestinian state that doesn't have any real right, a real state status. But he is willing to divide the country, and that isn't right-wing ideology. You can say he's liberal economically, but because he needs to form a coalition with the Haredim, he doesn't really forms his liberal ideas regarding the right. And since, that's my interpretation, since his legal problems, Bibi is under charge for 3...
Indictment.
only one indictment,
Yeah,
3
charges.
So he's very but since the investigations in the police, since 2015, he's very anti-judicial branch. And he wasn't like that before, to my opinion. And today he really wants to do a reform there. And there's a question whether it's ideology or personal agenda. But the Likud supports him in his war against the judicial branch.
He's also kind of surrounded himself. One of the criticisms against the Likud is he's surrounded himself with a bunch of yes men that are not quite the princes of old, like the Likud of old, which had these strong characters of ideology, but now it's
Again,
just
that's
this motley crew of.
That's nostalgia. Again, I don't like what's happening in the Likud.
Yeah.
I'm against it, but I'm not sure it wasn't like that before. Yuval Steinitz is for tens of years, and he was always a yes man. I don't know if Begin didn't have that kind of character. Though today, I think Bibi really made a party who's based on him. Anyway, there's also a big question in Israel today. If you're for Bibi or against Bibi, what does that say about you? Does that say you're right-wing or leftist? Or does that say maybe some say that Netanyahu represents the lower class of Israel? And I think there is truth in that. Do you vote for Netanyahu or against Netanyahu because of your personal how you feel, sociology? Are you Ashkenazi or Sephardic? There are a lot of questions, but I don't think we can get into them.
I think it's so true. First of all, that the split is right down that question of Bibi or no Bibi. I don't know if in the States there was ever in Israel, one of the things that you see on Facebook, basically half your friends, if you live in Israel, are gonna have a profile picture, a frame of your profile picture that says "Go."
Right.
And it's a cry to Bibi.
When I see, because I worked for all the 4 campaigns, I see a cute girl sometimes, right, or wherever. I search her on Facebook, and then I see she has this go frame. I said, that's it.
Yeah.
Maybe you cannot date.
It's a problem.
Wow.
It's a problem.
Really?
It's a problem.
It could be. Depends how extreme. But if you're putting on a frame, I think if I saw any girl with a frame with a political message,
it's a turn off.
I'd be like,
any political. Also, if it's pro Bibi.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
You care too much. Come on.
You care. You have a podcast about things you care about.
Yeah, but we talk about it, whatever. But I
It's not a part of your
right. You're absolutely right. I'm gonna shut up.
Usually,
for 2 seconds.
You put those frames, and then after a week, 2 weeks, you put them down, right? You turn them off. But not those people, and those people leave this go, and you need to explain why.
So, but anyway, go is basically is go home, Bibi.
Yeah.
Is basically. But I don't think there was ever one of those for Trump. There was there's Black Lives Matter, and there's stuff that are very clearly anti-Trump, but there wasn't anything that was just their political message was go home Trump.
Maybe, but they do say that Biden won because he's not Trump, not because he's Biden.
Yeah,
So
no,
that also has
absolutely.
a-
But I'm just saying it wasn't like as out there as this is. It's just out there. It's just like
Also, there's a big criticism.
anti-Bibi.
To me, it's a big turnoff because, what do you mean go? I mean, if you vote against him and he'll lose, he'll go.
Oh, okay,
But-
it's a slogan. They will. I
No,
don't, I
I
never
think it's
get
more.
that.
I think it's
you
more.
always think it's
I
an
think it's
anti.
more.
Like when they do protests against Bibi, the criticism is, who do they think they are? You need to vote him out. No, it's a protest.
No, but
And
okay,
that's a
but
profile
protests
picture
are
on
protests,
Facebook.
but the message that he should just go, although he was democratically elected.
yeah, okay.
he should go.
I was just making an observation.
Okay.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
just saying that.
They
I'm
want
just
him
putting that
out. They
there.
want him out. They'll try
Well,
to vote him out.
so
It's
vote him out.
okay. But
If
they're
you want
not
him out.
doing a revolution by putting a profile picture that says
I think
go.
it's a problem. I think it's a serious
Go!
problem that needs to be addressed. I will vote for whoever promises to outlaw profile picture from
That's
on Facebook.
that I understand
Okay.
to stop freedom of speech. That I
Yeah,
understand.
yeah, you know what I'm
But
talking about.
go. That's your rebellion.
So how do we sum this up, Yoav? This is I like to our listeners, if you managed
To make it through
yes, and
without,
understand.
without
Like
slitting your wrist.
Every time I speak on stuff like this, at the end of the discussion, I said we should have simplified it.
How can you simplify? It's so fucking
We
messy.
should have talked about.
We
the-
didn't even talk
Let's do
about-
it again. We should have talked about the axis and then put the parties on it. Okay.
We didn't even talk about, by the way, if you really want to slit your wrists, in Israel, I don't remember exactly when, but there's like a mandated time on television where every party gets a
Oh.
commercial. And the shit that goes on there
It's amazing.
is actually pretty entertaining.
I'm gonna sneeze.
Is that okay?
I'm gonna.
Oh my
sneeze.
god!
This is-
oh my god!
Yeah, that could be a commercial for a
By the
political
way,
I'm
party.
very
we're
sorry,
all vaccinated
yeah.
here, so
Yeah.
no worries.
Thank you,
No,
Bibi.
but that literally could. Some of the
I'm-
commercials are
I'm
less
part of the
entertaining than that.
5%.
But but the thing about the commercials is we mentioned you besides all those parties you have like 30 other parties that nobody heard of,
Yeah, because
and they all get a slot in the commercial spot
Right.
in all the big channels.
Like
and
the
it's
pirate
amazing.
party.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
The party, the
The pirate
pirates
party.
And the reason you still have it on TV is because of outdated laws of campaign. But it's amazing. You still have them.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good.
So what do you make? What you don't tell who you vote for? I guess
I can say, but
nobody's gonna go this far into the episode.
it's okay.
The labor.
I will vote. I will probably. I'm not sure. I will probably vote Gantz. I am that man. I am that man. It's the first time I'm saying it publicly.
Oh my God, we have a
I
scoop.
am
We
that
have a
man.
scoop.
Yes. Do not put
You're
that on
the guy.
Twitter.
You're
Yeah,
the
that's
guy.
me.
There's a
I'm not even sure if that's
PD?
הצבעת מחאה,
Protest
a
vote.
protest vote, and I don't know against who that is.
Oh,
But,
man.
you pity him though.
yes, I
of
pity
pity?
him. But no, that's not. I don't vote him out
Is
of
it
pity.
is it like the guy who the homeless guy who comes up to your window, to the
And
car
then,
window,
yeah,
and
take
knocks
my
on
vote.
it?
No.
You're like,
I truly
Okay, fine.
think. Well, what does it mean? I think he did his part and that he represents my values. I know it's very hard to hear that, but it's true. He represents me. I was also chief of
But
staff.
he's a
so
womanizer. You're a
Yeah.
womanizer.
Yeah.
we are both not womanizers, but he's handsome, that I would say. But
he's a man's man.
I think he did in the government what I wanted him to do. I know it's very hard to hear that, but he did exactly what I needed him to do. He did that.
Yeah, he
that
made promises and then
he got with Bibi, but because I knew he didn't, I really think he should have went with Bibi because he had no other options. The left forgets that Bibi would have, if we had fourth elections, Bibi would have.
You like Bibi? It's okay.
No, on the contrary, I'm saying Bibi, he didn't have no choice but to go with Bibi.
Yes,
and that was
but
okay.
if you were against Bibi, you wouldn't vote.
I am.
Gantz.
I don't like Bibi. I don't like him. I'm sorry. I really don't like him. But Gantz had no. He had no.
Wait, do you have the profile picture?
No, I don't. Even though I say what I vote for, I don't see myself as a political like I should identify
you-
myself, but by who I vote.
It's okay. We're
No, I know,
open
I know,
to it. This
but
is
I
a
do
safe
vote.
space.
Okay, it's not. It's really not.
But
Once it's
the
recorded,
joke
it's not.
is the joke is that they always poll 5 mandates for Gantz, and the joke goes, who are you, the people who vote for guns? Because
Exactly.
nobody knows who they are.
I'm not like. It's not like I'm. Oh, of course I'm voting for Gantz. I don't believe I'm voting for him, but I actually think he represents me the best
best
way.
We respect that.
Amen,
We respect
amen.
that.
Okay, you can't say.
I can say.
I'm voting for Bennett. I'm just going to put it out there. Probably.
Okay.
I don't know yet. We should have full disclosure. Naor has to keep it in secret because he's
No
a
problem.
political
I d-
operative.
I did not press Naor to say anything.
Yes.
He should. I think he should. I'd press him if we had
I'll say
15
after
more
the
minutes.
elections. I'll say after the elections, yeah.
Which anyway, if you're smart enough, you can understand what that means. Anyway, no one's listening
All
to
good,
this.
all good.
No one's listening to
No
this.
one understood anything. I left because I'm uncomfortable. Everything's okay.
Okay.
Yoav, where can people find you? You have,
I have Twitter, but it's basically in Hebrew. I
Yeah.
have Instagram, but it's basically really boring. And
you
That's it.
have some sexy photos there.
I have some. If you want sexy photos of me with cats,
Yes.
go to
Or
my
sexy
Instagram.
photos of cats with you.
me. Yeah,
Also.
you also have just cats. If you're interested basically in cats and not me, that's your Instagram
Check it
to
out.
go.
Other
Nice.
things we should recommend that involve you?
No,
No,
it's
in
Corona
English?
time.
Yeah.
I have nothing under my belt.
Okay.
All right, so guys, check him out, Yoav Rabinowitz. Also check out The Other Side with Guy Zohar.
If you
It's a
speak
really,
Hebrew.
really great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, I have a question. I got nothing under my belt is an English phrase, or did I just invent it?
I just laughed because I was uncomfortable.
Okay. Very strange. I got nothing under my
Under
belt.
my belt, like
Am
if-
I okay, we will discuss it afterwards.
If you,
I will Google it to see if I invented it and whether I need to speak to my therapist
it's a
about
phrase.
it.
It's a phrase. It doesn't mean what you
Nothing
think,
under my
but it's a phrase.
belt. I have dreams of me with nothing under my belt. I'm naked and I have nothing under my belt. Okay, never mind. Sorry.
So, yes, other than Masa Israel and Yoav's belt, there are a few other things we need to mention.
Yes.
We are also sponsored by Forward. Check them out, forward.com/2njb. You get a special offer for podcast listeners. The Forward is a great source for news and opinion all through the Jewish lens. Forward.com/2njb.
Yes. /2NGB. Yes. Highly recommended and great price for
Our listeners.
our
yes.
listeners. Also, Otzsheva, IsraelNationalNews.com. Check them out for the Israeli perspective on the news and highly recommended content in English. Also,
AJN.timesofisrael.com because we're global, so Australian Jewish news, AJN.timesofisrael.com. And finally, guys, we do this on our free time, so we accept donations. Go to 2njb.com/donate.
we did it, Yoav.
Amazing. You are media moguls. Wow. So nice.
Thank you so
Thank you
much for
so
joining
much
us.
you,
for
guys.
coming again.
Thank
It was
you.
so much
Two
fun.
nice Jewish boys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.